Children across Southall have been learning about Southall's past through history and art classes taught by local history experts and artists. These classes have given children the opportunity to learn and reflect on the history of Southall, especially the experiences of people who migrated here in the 60s and 70s. Who came to Southall during this time and why? How did they establish a new life here? What challenges did they face? And why is this important to learn about now?
It changes your view on how you see things. It gives you an open mindset to exploring Southall, and knowing their history really changes how you think about Southall and how you explore Southall in different ways.
If they know about their history and they know about what's happened in the past, we ensure that those mistakes don't happen again, and it connects us to our community in a more fundamental way.
I think learning about history is important because so many people living here do not know what has happened in our history.
Our history is important because different communities and different countries come and they unite together and make a whole different community.
I never knew that it had like a really good history.
Yeah.
I never knew it had a town hall.
It's important to look at what's happened in the past in order for the children to know that they can make changes for their future and their local community.
My grandpa used to live here, and then my dad lives here, now I live here. It has so much history behind it from such a small place.
You learn so many things, but in such a way you didn't realise.
There was so much rich history in the area that hadn't been forgotten, but we weren't kind of sharing it enough with the pupils themselves.
It's good having an expert to come in and really help show the children what the history is really about, ask all of the questions that they have, because they have really good questions, and it makes them realise that life outside school is real.
Okay, so let me introduce myself. My name is Janpal Basran. I work for what's called a charity.
My name is Suresh. I live in Southall. I've been active in Southall on the issue of equality and justice.
We'll talk to you about history and Southall, and then afterwards, Suresh and I will have an interview. In the 1960s particularly, we started seeing a lot of people who were arriving from India, Pakistan and Caribbean islands. The types of faces began to change, more black and brown faces everywhere. Some people didn't like it.
There were actually people who held up signs saying no more Asians and bring back Southall to us.
So they were carrying these signs in protests. Imagine doing that now. It would never happen, but it was happening then.
They weren't very open to new experiences.
99% would be working in factories or transport system or in the health service. And so they worked in positions where they had to work very hard. They had to work long hours, unsociable hours, in hours that nobody else would work in, but they got very less money for it.
In 1965, the government introduced a new policy, new rules. They said that if there are too many non-white, non-English speaking children at one school, it disrupts the education of the other children. So they thought, let's take away all of these extra children, let's take them somewhere else. A bus would come outside your school, for example, and take away the extra children to another place.
So you might have been from Southall to Greenford or Slough, and some people who were bused came to this school, which was originally called George Thompson.
In 1976, an 18-year-old boy, he was, I think, Indian, who was stabbed to death by a group of white people because of his skin colour.
At the corner of my eye, I looked across and I saw a police officer with a pool of blood. And I thought, maybe this is where Gurdip Singh Chaggar got killed.
This is him here when he was a boy, and he passed away on the 4th of June 1976.
His brother must have felt so sad because he was only 18 and that's a very young age to be stabbed at.
This is his brother.
Oh wow.
Gurdip Singh Chaggar, that's what he looks like now.
Young people came together, they started protesting, and the Southall Youth Movement was built in 1976.
I don't think it's good discriminating people, because even if we're different skin colours, we're still the same, we're still humans, and everyone has feelings.
Today we've been learning about how 1979 was a very important year. A group of people who favoured white people was held a meeting in the town hall, Southall, and of course many people who got discriminated here in Southall got very angry. Then it was called the Southall Uprising.
During the time, there were people who didn't appreciate the diversity from people around the world.
The National Front was smuggled into the town hall through a back street, but no one, apart from the party faithful, were allowed inside with them.
Lots of police who were outside Southall Town Hall, protecting the racist National Front who were inside the building.
For the National Front to hold their apparently legitimate election meeting in an area like Southall was a well-calculated assault. Our initial reaction of disbelief and amazement quickly turned into anger.
Local people started coming out at 11 o'clock in the morning outside the town hall, and we started getting arrested from 11 o'clock onwards. By 9 o'clock, 800 people had been arrested. They were taken not to Southall, but they were taken as far as Luton or Slough or Reading.
There were a lot of people who said, oh, I went home and talked about it with my family, and my uncle was involved, and my grandparent was involved in that, in the uprising on that day.
There were 138 people very seriously injured. There were 89 police officers who were injured, and from the local community there were 17 people who suffered very badly in terms of injuries.
There was a teacher from New Zealand called Blair Peach who came to show what he thinks is on his mind. He decided to stand with them and fight for their rights. And on his way back home, he got smacked in the head by a white policeman.
First one is Gurdip Singh Chaggar, Blair Peach, and then the third one is remembering, it says, Misty in Roots. Misty in Roots is the name of a musical band. They used to write songs and play music, a type of music called reggae music. They're from the Caribbean, and on that day, on the 23rd of April 1979, their studio, the building they were in, was completely broken and destroyed by the police.
We're going to be making badges about Southall and the history of it.
And I'm now going to turn this into a badge while your next questions are being taken. Come on.
During protests, people would often wear badges that made statements about what they believed in. We made badges too, with hundreds of children in Southall that expressed something important to them that they could wear with pride.
The discrimination of all black people and Asians. To those who sacrificed their lives for racism. Red card to racism.
And racism.
Hashtag stop racism.
Stop racism, and it doesn't deserve to be in society.
So I'm gonna draw about racism, how the people struggle with racism.
Hashtag stop racism.
Show that you've done a difference, even if it's tiny. You've done a difference to the world.
Draw inside it, and then they cut it out and they put it in a machine which would photoprint it, and then it would have a case in which you could wear your badge with pride to represent what you've learned, to show how you appreciate the different things that's happened in Southall.
When you get the pencils or felt tips, make it really bright and colourful, and then we'll turn it into something that looks like one of these. Do you know this man? This is Suresh.
That's a picture when I was 19.
He got stabbed right here because by a group of skinheads, racists, when he was coming back from a cinema with his nephew.
So in 81, the skinheads came again with their two coaches. This time there was massive fight between us and the skinheads, and a pub called Hambro Tavern was burned down. And the skinheads have never come to Southall ever again.
We're going to make stuff that represent what we learned today.
It could be painting, could be making models, could be sculpture, so that we can get you to produce things which are about Southall, our communities and our histories.
We we're drawing the protesters, and on the top left we're drawing the Southall Remembers Blair Peach and Gurdip Singh Chaggar sign.
We're drawing
We have a swarm of children who don't support racism, and then we have a bunch of angry adults.
Then we use our own imagination. We coloured the houses red, blue, yellow.
And a lady holding a flag.
And it says Southall remembers who killed Blair Peach.
I'm gonna make it like strokes of colour to represent freedom.
Nearly almost the whole class stays in.
Gurdip Singh Chaggar, and we're gonna write his name on top. We're gonna try to do a close, like make it similar. Why was this man killed? Because this was just the racism.
And then we'll mix it and we can do that.
I think this is the character.
Look, my artist friend was really, really good. She painted a lot of the background and the hair and the face and so on.
Navy blue. And then we can do like.
It used to be called the Liberty Cinema. Liberty Cinema.
Oh, this one.
You come back over here. Right. Just show Mr. Daniel the.
During the march for the town hall, and they wanted peace and unity,
And we did these two people and a bit of the sign, and we also added our own sign over here of Southall Remembers.
And they just saw the picture, and from it, within about half an hour, they came up with the design.
There was a fire, so I'm trying to draw that. So this is when it happened and all the bricks were falling.
Come what may, we're here to stay. What does that mean?
I think it's when they were having the fight in the town hall, and I think maybe this is like means that they didn't care what the National Front were going to do.
Okay, yeah, we're good. What do we do now?
It says unite against racism.
Yeah.
It says down there, I think one race, the human race.
Southall stand for unity and peace. Southall Youth Movement.
Southall Youth Movement. So these are all important slogans in the 1970s, especially in 1979.
They saw a banner which said Southall Youth Movement remembers Blair Peach and Gurdip Singh Chaggar, and then they put their own kind of twist to it. 23rd of April. All of the things that you've painted, produced, made today are going to be displayed in a big exhibition.
As well as thinking about difficulties and challenges, we also spent time thinking about the success of Southall and celebrated being part of it.
Some of us were painting the carriages, and we're going to put our hands on it.
We reflected on how incredible and unique Southall is, how lucky we are to live in a place that's diverse, with friendly people who enjoy being part of a community.
No, you're right. It wasn't. It was a.
The strength, resilience and energy that emerged during those difficult times lives on today, and we hope forever will.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. They're out of service. Some of them are not letting me put on. This is our room.
We focused on the past, we've focused on the present, but we've also talked about the future of Southall and how it's changed recently, but also how they think it's going to change in another 10 years, and what they would like Southall to look like and why.
Southall's a nice place to live in. I think everyone deserves to live there, no matter what their religion is, what their skin colour is.
I think what they realise is that these things happened and it's ongoing. It's not that's done now. Let's all finished and everything's rosy.
Hopefully, you know how to act now. If you see something that you feel uncomfortable with,
Go to someone who can help you. Tell your teacher, tell your friends, tell your parents that something is happening to you. You don't feel that you're being treated fairly and equally. Don't let it simmer inside you.
Because this is where you live, this is where you grow up. You deserve to be happy, you deserve to be successful.
No, you get one of those moments as a teacher where I don't know, you're just kind of overcome with emotion and pride that when the children could kind of stand up at the front without much prompting and talk about these experiences of imagining what life would have been like in the 70s for people from different backgrounds.
And then my last question was, how different is Southall today than before? And I think all of us can answer that question, that it's a bit less racist around. There's lots of less mean comments around, but there still is a bit of that racism still here. And I wrote, even today people are still standing up for what is right.